Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about actually initiating mechanical ventilation. And what we'll do is we'll start from a new adult patient. So we've already hooked up the tubing. The ventilator's ready to go. It's plugged in. The tubing's good. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and initiate mechanical ventilation. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just to familiarize you with the setup of this ventilator, the interface. On the top here, this is going to be information about the patient. So I have a little bar here, and this will give, and then with every breath, a little bar will move up and down, and that'll give me my PIP, or my peak inspiratory pressure. I'll have information that'll every few seconds that'll change on this bar here, and it'll give me flow, ID ratio, peak inspiratory pressure, calculated flow, I think I already mentioned that, rate, minute ventilation, and so on. Now you can hit the select button and manually select whatever information you want to monitor. So this is information about the patient up here. This right here, this little blue area, and that actually corresponds to this little blue area here. This is stuff that we set. So this tells us about the patient here, and these are controls that we set in the ventilator. So you can see I have my breath rate, my tidal volume, my pressure control if I do pressure control ventilation, my inspiratory time, my pressure support if I have SIMV. This is the O2% or the FiO2. My sensitivity, this is a flow-based sensitivity, so it'll be in liters per minute. The on-off button. This selects between volume control ventilation, pressure control ventilation. This selects between assist control, SIMV/CPAP, and then NIPPV, or non-invasive positive pressure ventilation, which is basically analogous to BiPAP. This is my inspiratory or expiratory hold button. This allows me to check for auto PEEP and check the plateau pressure. This is to give a manual breath. This is low pressure O2 source. This is if I have a setup, I can bleed in low pressure oxygen to increase or decrease my FiO2. This ventilator has its own compressor. It doesn't necessarily need a compressed oxygen gas source to run, and in fact all of the stuff that I'll be doing on this ventilator today will be done on room air. It has a very effective compressor. I believe it can deliver up to something like 20 liters per minute, or 120 liters per minute of flow on its own. This over here is the PEEP, and this is a little selector dial. This is what we use to go up and go down on our setting, just like this, up and down, and there's a little indent where you can put your finger, thumb in. These are all of my alarm settings here. This is my high pressure limit alarm, my low pressure limit alarm, and then my low minute ventilation alarm. And just to the right here, so there's this button here for the low minute ventilation. Just to the right of it, you can't see it. We will show it to you here in a minute. Is the silence / alarm reset. So this button over here and this button over here are probably the two most important buttons that we have to deal with. So let's go ahead and turn the ventilator on. I'm going to hold it. The ventilator will turn on. It'll run a self-test, and it'll ask me if I want to do the same patient. I don't want to do that, so what I'm going to do is, with this selector here, you can see either new or same. I'm going to go ahead and select new, and then I'm going to hit the select button here, and it's going to ask me infant, pediatric, or adult, and there are generic settings for each patient. So let's go ahead and just select adult for now. I hit select, and you can see that it automatically put in some default settings for just a generic adult. It gives me a rate of 12, tidal volume of 500. You can see that this is really bright here, and this is bright, and this is bright, this is bright, and this is bright, but this is dim, and this is dim here. If you see something dimmed out, what that means is that's something that you can't use in the current mode or the current type of ventilation you're using. So you can see over here that I'm in volume control ventilation, so my pressure control is dimmed out because there's no need for this because I'm in volume control ventilation. You can also see that my mode is assist control, So my pressure support is dimmed out because there's simply no need for pressure support in assist control ventilation. And you can also see that I have some default alarm settings. My pressure limit 40, low pressure 10, low minute ventilation 3 liters, and my PEEP is 0. And there, of course, is a silence / reset button. So to change a setting is actually quite easy. So let's say that I want to decrease my respiratory rate to 8. I'll go ahead and select that. Everything else will dim out. That'll be lit brightly. And then with the selector knob, I'll select that again. I'll go ahead and decrease the rate to 8 and then hit select again, and it accepts that. If I fail to hit select, it will wait, I believe, up to 5 seconds and then put in whatever you happen to select. Likewise, let's say that I want a tidal volume of 400 milliliters. I select that, everything else dims out, the tidal volume stays lit, and then I'll go ahead and decrease it, and we will go to 400 milliliters. Hit select again, and it accepts it. Now, if you can see up here, just like I said, this is every breath, this little bar goes up, and that's my peak inspiratory pressure. Now I can also monitor the PIP down here as well. You can see that this is scrolling through different information. So let's go ahead and just manually scroll through different types of information here and see what we have. So this is my PIP. My peak inspiratory pressure is 24. This is my mean airway pressure, which is 4. This is my PEEP, which says I have 1 of PEEP here. This is my rate. This is my, and you can see F is for frequency, which is rate. That's 8 breaths a minute. Of course, that's what I have set. This is my VTE, or my exhaled tidal volume. It's 423. I have it set at 400, so I have just a little more going out than is going in. This is VE, that's minute ventilation, 3.3 liters per minute. Of course, minute ventilation is just the respiratory rate times the tidal volume. This is my IDE ratio, it's 1 to 6.5. This is VCalc, or my calculated flow, 32 liters per minute. Now, on this ventilator, we don't actually directly set our flow like the CrossVent 4, where you actually use your flow to manipulate your IDE ratio. On this ventilator, what we do is we use the inspiratory time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the I time, and that should increase the flow. And I decrease the I time to 8, and you can see I now have a flow, or 0.8 seconds, I now have a flow of 40 liters. If I increase the flow back up to 1 second, my flow then goes back down to 32. So I'm going to go ahead and select the flow, and let's go ahead and put it at 0.8 seconds. And that'll give me a flow of 40 liters per minute. You'll also notice that that changes your IDE ratio. So we'll scroll through and take a look at our IDE ratio now, 1 to 6.5. What I can do is let's go ahead and increase the inspiratory time. That'll decrease the flow. And now I have an IDE ratio of 1 to 4.8. But if I go ahead and decrease, you can see that my IDE ratio goes back down to 1 to 6.5 with an increased I time. If I decrease the I time, of course, I'm going to have a longer ratio. Increase the I time, a shorter ratio. We'll go ahead and set it back down at 0.8 seconds. And in the next video, or the next video, we'll go ahead and talk about changing between modes and volume and pressure control ventilation. Thanks for hanging in there, guys.